Welcome to the Deep Dive. You sent us your sources, and we're here to pull out the crucial insights, basically. No fluff, just the knowledge you need.
That's the goal.
And today, we're taking a deep dive into Karate Technique and Spirit by Tadashi Nakamura. This was published back in 2001.
Right. And for you, our listener, well, whether you're looking to maybe sharpen your mind for a challenge or expand your understanding of something new or, just satisfy that curiosity.
Which we love.
Absolutely. We're aiming to unlock some real aha moments here. Because this book, you see, it goes way beyond just the kicks and punches of karate.
It really does.
It delves into a pretty profound philosophy, one that's deeply connected to Zen Buddhism. And that's something Nakamura emphasizes, throughout the whole work.
It's interesting, too, right at the start, the book is dedicated to his parents, Tadashi Nakamura's parents.
Yeah, that sets a certain tone, doesn't it?
It really does. And there's also a very important reminder, a disclaimer, really, in the book about, the potential for injury if you're trying these techniques without proper guidance.
Crucial point.
Yeah, stressing the need to check in with a doctor before starting any training. Always good to keep that front of mind.
Absolutely. Our goal today is to navigate this really rich material in a way that's hopefully clear and insightful for everyone listening.
So where do we start?
Well, we'll start by looking at the historical roots Nakamura lays out, see how it all began. Then we'll explore the core philosophical principles of Seido Karate. That's the style Nakamura founded.
Okay.
We'll also get into this fascinating idea of moving Zen, touch on how these principles can be applied in, practical ways today.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and even explore things like the importance of breathing, posture, and the significance of the dojo itself and the karate uniform. And we'll definitely look at kata, the formal exercises, and kumite, which is the sparring.
Okay, sounds like a comprehensive plan. So let's dive right into it. The historical roots. Nakamura takes us way, way back.
He does. Back to China, around 520 AD. With the arrival of Bodhidharma, or Daruma, as he's known in Japan at the Shaolin Monastery, that's in the Henan province.
Now, when we think Shaolin, we often jump straight to martial arts, right?
Yeah.
But his initial aim was, it was different, wasn't it?
That's right. Bodhidharma came to China really wanting to ground Buddhism there. He went through this incredibly intense 9 years of silent meditation, zazen, in a cave.
9 years.
Yeah. And he attained enlightenment. But what's fascinating and really key here is that he also recognized how crucial physical well-being is for that spiritual journey. The whole sound mind and a sound body idea.
Exactly. So while he was deep in zazen, he also developed a set of physical movements. And these weren't just about getting fit for fitness's sake. They were designed to keep the body healthy, energized during those long periods of stillness.
Makes sense.
And in that remote mountain region, they also served a very practical purpose, self-defense, against wild animals, for instance.
Right. And these physical practices, they didn't stay separate from the spiritual ones. The monks at Shaolin, they integrated them directly into their spiritual training.
I see.
Plus, as you can imagine, a monastery in a remote area could be, vulnerable. So these techniques also became pretty essential for defending themselves against bandits. It was a very practical application.
It makes perfect sense. And I suppose when you have effective self-defense techniques, word gets around.
It does. Nakamura mentions that during the Tang Dynasty, Shaolin actually became quite influential. They had a large number of fighting monks, considerable land holdings.
But things weren't always stable, were they? Politics gets involved.
No, exactly. The monastery's fortunes really mirrored the political shifts of the time. And eventually, that led to a very difficult period when, in 1928, the monastery was actually burned down.
Wow, that's significant.
It is. And interestingly, by that time, Bodhidharma's techniques had already evolved into a more formal martial art called wushu, which later was largely replaced by kempo, sometimes called temple boxing.
Kempo, okay.
Yeah. And after the fire, the practice of martial arts even faced a temporary ban.
But it seems like once those skills were out there, they sort of took on a life of their own.
Right, precisely. These techniques, born from a monk's quest for enlightenment, started to appeal to people for, everyday non-spiritual reasons.
Like self-defense, maybe status?
Exactly. They spread beyond the monastery walls, getting mixed up with politics, economics, the whole lot.
So the original spiritual links started to fray a bit.
You could say that. And it's important to remember Buddhism itself changed as it traveled from India to China. It became more integrated with local culture, community life.
Right.
But that also meant sometimes the core spiritual focus risked getting a bit diluted, which, in a way, paved the way for its next journey to Japan.
Which brings us to Japan in the 6th century. Buddhism arrives from Korea. Nakamura points out there were power struggles between clans then.
Yeah, the Soga clan really championed Buddhism, influenced the royal family, and then this real intellectual force, Prince Shotoku Taishi, he really threw his weight behind it.
Okay, a key figure.
Definitely. And around the same time, early 7th century, the Tang dynasty in China, which was like the golden age for Shaolin, was rising.
Ah, the connection.
Right. Japanese culture and administration at this time really looked to the Tang dynasty as a model. The imperial city of Nara, for instance, was designed very much like Chang'an in China.
Interesting parallel. But as the clans in Japan kept vying for power, the emperor's actual authority started to decline.
Yeah, it did. That eventually led to the feudal period. Nakamura explains how the Fujiwara family became the real power behind the throne, but then they fractured into warring factions.
Everyone needing soldiers, basically.
Exactly, needing military muscle. And this ultimately led to the rise of the military class, the samurai, with Yoritomo becoming the first shogun in 1192.
Okay, so the samurai rise. Now let's link this back to Buddhism.
Right. So, thanks to Prince Shotoku Taishi, Buddhism had firmly taken root in Japan. But it didn't just stay the same. It evolved into what we now know as Zen.
Zen Buddhism.
Yes. And a key figure here is Dogen. He was a Japanese monk who actually journeyed to China seeking a deeper understanding of Buddhist teachings.
And he had some kind of insight there.
He did. Interestingly, it was a simple observation. Seeing an old monk just diligently drying mushrooms in the sun, that triggered his enlightenment.
Just drying mushrooms.
Yeah. It was in that everyday act, performed with complete focus, that he found profound insight. It wasn't some grand philosophical debate.
That's a fantastic story. Nakamura highlights that Dogen essentially stripped away all the layers of philosophical complexity that had built up around Buddhism.
He did. And he focused on two core aspects: direct personal experience and the practice of zazen, that seated meditation. The act of practice itself became the most important thing.
Just doing it.
Just doing it. And what's really compelling is how the sort of quiet simplicity of Zen resonated so deeply with the Japanese character.
That wasn't just for monks anymore.
No, not at all. It became a way of life embraced by warriors, aristocrats, scholars, all emphasizing a deep connection with nature. And this Zen influence then permeated Japanese art and culture in really significant ways.
And during this feudal period, the samurai really came into their own. Nakamura emphasizes how they absorbed so much from Zen, particularly during the Kamakura period, 13th century.
They did. And in turn, they kind of infused Zen with their own very stoic warrior spirit. It was a two-way street.
Okay.
By the Tokugawa period, the samurai were expected to cultivate both intellectual and martial skills. They blended kendo, the way of the sword, with Dogen's Buddhism to create Bushido, the way of the warrior.
Bushido.
Yeah. And this whole samurai value system, deeply influenced by Zen and this fierce fighting spirit, really forms the foundation for the value system we see later in karate.
So it's this incredible journey. The origins weren't initially about combat.
Not at all. It was about spiritual awakening.
That Buddhist tradition travels from India to China, then to Japan via Korea, morphs into Zen. And those physical techniques Bodhidharma developed also evolved. But the spiritual and martial sides, while unified for the samurai, started to become more distinct over time elsewhere.
That seems to be the trajectory, yeah. They weren't always seen as quite so integrated outside of, say, the samurai class.
Okay. Now, while all this was happening in mainland Japan, Nakamura also talks about Okinawa. Something different was developing there.
Right. The islanders there were actually banned from carrying weapons at various points.
Ah, so they needed alternatives.
Exactly. Which led to the secret development of their own unique self-defense techniques, known as Okinawa-te, literally Okinawa hand.
And there's a key figure there, too.
Yes, Sakugawa. Born in 1722, he had the chance to study Kempo and even stick fighting in China.
Bringing skills back.
Exactly. He then took those skills and really systematized the local Okinawan techniques, to such an extent that the art started to become known as Karate no Sakugawa.
Karate no Sakugawa.
Which literally translates to Sakugawa's Chinese hand techniques.
Yeah.
And that marks the first recorded use of the term karate.
Wow, okay, so karate originally meant Chinese hand.
That's the original meaning, yes. Later, the character for kara was changed to mean empty, but the origin points to China.
Got it. Then, in 1879, Japan annexed Okinawa.
Right. And Nakamura mentions that around 1916, Okinawan masters began making a concerted effort to bring karate to wider attention in Japan itself.
Spreading the art.
Yes. Which leads us to a really crucial point Nakamura makes. Kenzen Ichin-yo.
Which means?
Karate and Zen are one. He really emphasizes that this isn't just some later philosophical add-on.
It goes right back to the start.
Right back to Bodhidharma's original pursuit of spiritual perfection. However, he also notes that as these practical fighting techniques started to enter the broader world, that initial unity with spiritual training, well, it started to become less obvious to many.
Which sets the stage for Seido Karate.
Perfectly. Nakamura explains that while karate has definitely flourished globally, with so many different styles, Seido is really an attempt to rediscover that original face of the martial art.
Blending tradition with modern life.
Exactly. Blending that founding tradition with how we live today, he stresses that through Seido, students should aim to understand what Dogen realized watching that monk dry mushrooms, the fundamental importance of dedicated practice.
Okay, that gives us a great historical foundation, a really rich history. Now let's delve into Seido Karate itself and its core philosophy.
Right. Nakamura describes it as a very strict traditional Japanese style that he founded. The headquarters, the Hanbu, opened in New York City back in 1976.
New York, interesting.
Yeah, and it's now grown into a global organization, branches in many countries.
But he emphasizes quality over just growth.
Absolutely. That stands out immediately. For Nakamura, simply expanding isn't the main goal. The real focus is on the quality of the instruction and the deep personal development of each student.
So it's not just about the physical.
Definitely not. He makes it clear that while the physical training in Seido is, yes, rigorous, it builds strength, flexibility, cardio fitness, it's not just about becoming physically powerful.
What's the ultimate aim then?
Nakamura stresses that Seido's ultimate aim is to cultivate individuals with the highest moral character. People who can make positive contributions, to their families, their workplaces, society as a whole.
And he founded Seido on 3 fundamental principles.
That's right. And these are beautifully symbolized by the 3 circles within the plum blossom emblem of Seido.
Okay, what are they?
Respect, love, and obedience. He sees these as absolutely essential, not just for a meaningful martial arts practice, but also as fundamental guides for how we should live our lives, every single day.
Okay, let's unpack those, starting with respect.
Right. Nakamura argues that if you truly hold respect for others, it will naturally lead you to treat them with courtesy, with consideration. He even suggests a link. A lack of respect for others might stem from a lack of self-respect.
Interesting connection.
Yeah. And karate, especially through practicing zazen, encourages that deep self-reflection. It helps us uncover our inherent Buddha nature, that potential for enlightenment, for goodness within all of us.
So seeing ourselves clearly helps us see others clearly.
Exactly. Seeing ourselves with a healthy sense of respect allows us to see others in the same light. Recognizing that in Zen philosophy, there isn't really a fundamental separation between ourselves and others.
He connects this to the Gasso gesture too, right? Palms together.
Yes, symbolizing 2 becoming 1. And this principle of respect, it isn't just a nice idea in Seido, it's actively cultivated in the dojo.
How so?
Through very specific codes of courtesy and etiquette. Everything from how the uniform, the gi, is worn, to how students address their seniors, the way they bow. It's all carefully defined.
Seems very formal.
It is. But Nakamura believes that consistently practicing this level of etiquette deeply ingrains respect into a person's character at a much more profound level than just, thinking about it. It's about embodiment.
Okay. The second principle is love.
Yes. Nakamura acknowledges it's a word we hear all the time, maybe overuse, but he explains that in Seido, love actually grows out of respect. You can't have genuine love without that underlying respect.
So respect comes first.
That's his view. He emphasizes the love we should feel for our parents as our very first teachers, stemming from a real appreciation for their sacrifices.
And that extends outwards.
Naturally, it extends to our families, and it should be rooted in compassion, which he directly connects to Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment and his deep compassion for the suffering of all beings.
And how does this connect to karate?
Nakamura suggests that when we truly love freely, we're able to give and share everything without holding on to anything ourselves. Our hands are truly empty.
Like non-attachment in Buddhism.
Exactly. It resonates deeply with that concept.
Yeah.
Being open, giving without expecting something back.
Okay, and the third principle, obedience.
Right. In Seido, this starts with adhering to the rules and guidelines of the dojo, the organization. But Nakamura is quick to point out this isn't about blind obedience.
It's not just following orders.
No. Rather, it's a way to cultivate humility, to keep the ego in check. He also broadens the idea to include obedience to the laws of the community, society. A true karate practitioner should be a responsible citizen.
Makes sense.
But ultimately, for Nakamura, the highest form of obedience is to the moral and spiritual principles of our own conscience, principles often first shaped by our parents' teachings.
So it's about developing an internal moral compass.
Precisely. His hope is that through Seido training, students will develop these strong individual moral compasses, gain a deeper understanding of themselves and their place in the world.
He also mentions specific samurai values Seido students should embody.
Yes, he highlights those ethical and moral values drawn from the samurai tradition, from Bushido. Things like gi, which is rectitude or justice, yu, heroic courage, jin, compassion or universal love,
Ray.
rei, respect and courtesy, shin, honesty and sincerity, makoto, truthfulness, and chugo, which is duty and loyalty, a whole ethical framework.
So, respect, love, obedience, the three pillars. Now, Nakamura introduces this really powerful concept, karate as moving Zen. What exactly does he mean by that?
It's a great phrase, isn't it? He quotes the Zen master Taizen Deshimaru, who said, "Only two things matter, energy and action."
Energy and action.
Yeah. Nakamura explains that moving Zen is about being completely involved, completely absorbed in the present moment. It's taking the core principles of Zen and applying them actively to our daily lives.
So Zazen, the seated meditation, isn't meant to be separate.
Exactly. While Zazen is incredibly energizing and focusing, its benefits, that stillness, that clarity, should naturally extend into our actions in the world. It shouldn't just stay on the cushion.
Right. He says when we step out of the dojo and back into everyday life, we should carry that focused awareness with us.
That's the idea. Karate's empty hand, as we discussed, doesn't cling to preconceived notions or biases. It's about being open, being of service.
So whether you're a teacher, a business person, a parent,
you're essentially practicing moving Zen, being fully present in each task, each interaction.
This really highlights how the focus and discipline learned in the dojo aren't limited to that space.
Not at all. They can be translated into every aspect of our lives: work, family, social interactions. Nakamura stresses concentrating on one thing at a time.
Whether it's a punch or writing an email.
Pretty much. Whether it's executing a technique in training or focusing on the task at hand at work, he also points to that shared responsibility in the dojo. That powerful image of all students, regardless of rank, cleaning the floor together after class.
That's a really strong image, isn't it? Everyone participating, breaking down hierarchy in that moment.
It is. It speaks volumes about community and humility.
So what are some of the concrete benefits of this karate Zen approach for how we live today, according to Nakamura?
Well, first and foremost, he emphasizes that karate is an incredibly efficient way to achieve physical fitness. And it's suitable for people across a wide range of ages and abilities.
Builds cardio, strength, flexibility.
All of it. Cardiovascular health, strength through bodyweight exercises, flexibility through progressive stretching, and importantly, all under the careful guidance of certified black belt instructors in the Seido system.
He also mentions taking our time, referencing the Japanese tea ceremony Sado.
Yes, where the guest takes that deliberate moment to truly appreciate just a single cup of tea.
Drawing a parallel to life.
Exactly. Suggesting we also need to slow down sometimes, be more present, and really appreciate the moments we have rather than rushing through them.
That's a valuable reminder. Now let's move on to something absolutely fundamental in both karate and Zen.
The breath.
Ah, yes, the breath. And Nakamura dedicates a significant part of the book to this. It's vital.
He contrasts a baby's breathing with how adults often breathe.
He does. A baby breathes naturally, fully, from the belly. Many adults develop shallow, restricted breathing patterns, often just using the upper chest. He even brings in prana from Indian yoga.
The life energy. Right, highlighting how universally important breath is. He points out just how inefficient shallow breathing is: poor oxygen exchange, negative impacts on physical, mental, even emotional well-being.
And posture is key for proper breathing in Zen.
Absolutely key. A good upright posture with a relaxed abdominal area allows natural deep breathing to happen more easily. But he also goes into specific breathing methods used in karate and Zen practice.
Okay, like what?
Well, for karate, he describes the karate exhalation. It's a forceful squeezing action from the hara, that center below the navel, the tendon.
Audible?
Yes. You exhale audibly and completely, lungs empty, often finishing with a little sort of cough-like expulsion of air.
And Zen exhalation is different.
Quite different. It's slow, typically twice as long as the inhalation. And there's a distinct feeling of gently squeezing down in the hara as you finish the breath. More subtle, more internal.
He also mentions no-gar breathing.
Yes, no gare. That involves breathing through the nose. You fill your lungs from the very bottom up to the top, like a smooth, long wave. Hold for a moment, then exhale naturally in a shorter wave.
And Zen inhalation.
That's a very quiet nasal breath. You focus on drawing it into your belly without any noticeable effort from the chest or upper abdomen. Very centered.
He brings in Eugen Herrigel, too, from Zen and the Art of Archery.
Right. Herrigel learned about this idea of pushing down with the intestines and realized the exact moment of releasing the arrow coincided with the very end of his outward breath.
Connecting breath and power.
Beautifully illustrates that profound connection. Nakamura also explains the kai, that powerful shout in karate, as a very forceful exhalation, precisely timed with a technique to maximize its power.
So breathing deeply and correctly isn't just physical health, it's fundamental for centering and generating power.
Both physically in karate and maybe even metaphorically in life, yes.
Now let's talk about postures, shize, and stances, dachi. Nakamura makes a pretty strong statement. To learn to stand properly takes 3 years.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? He observes how naturally babies stand centered in their lower body, relaxed upper body.
Contrasting with adults.
Yeah, how adult posture often deteriorates over time. Due to physical issues, maybe, or even the influence of our ego, how we want to present ourselves. He emphasizes these postures and stances are the absolute foundation of karate practice.
Like bridge supports.
Exactly, like the strong supports of a suspension bridge. They need to be stable, yet also supple and centered, allowing for proper weight distribution.
He briefly describes various seated postures used.
Yes, things like seiza, full lotus, half lotus, agura, and the fundamental standing posture, tachi zen. He also mentions aids like seiza benches and cushions, zabuton, zafu to help with comfort during seated meditation.
And the general principles for seated postures.
Involve having a solid base of support, either the tripod of knees and buttocks on the floor, or feet and buttocks if you're on a chair, and maintaining proper alignment. Straight spine, gently tucked chin.
He really pushes for daily zazen practice.
He really underscores its importance. Even if it's just for short periods, consistency is the key.
He describes the specific seiza posture used in the dojo.
Yes. Knees about shoulder width apart, fists gently on the hips, and the right instep resting over the left. He also introduces Tachi Zen, standing meditation, and the hand position, Mai Bano Kame.
And then there's Kinhin walking meditation.
Right. Kinhin, he explains, is very slow, deliberate movement. You maintain concentration, coordinate steps with breath, your feet stay in constant contact with the ground.
Mindful weight shifting.
Very mindful weight shifting. Each step is intentionally slow, measured. He contrasts this with our usual faster walking, where we often lose that centeredness and presence.
So Kinhin is basically zazen in motion.
Essentially, yes. Taking that focused awareness into movement. It's moving Zen, as he calls it. And it's also, in its essence, true karate.
Now let's shift focus to the dojo itself, the training hall. Nakamura acknowledges modern dojos often have fees.
Right, the practical reality.
But he stresses the real value comes from the shared respect among students and their collective commitment to self-perfection.
Absolutely. And he brings up again that tradition of everyone cleaning the dojo together after class.
Not just practical, but symbolic.
Deeply symbolic of reducing the ego. Everyone participates, regardless of rank or status outside the dojo. He says the dojo fosters a strong sense of community, belonging, which can be different from more individualistic training environments.
He also mentions the very specific, formalized etiquette.
Yes, very formalized, covering everything from greetings to how you adjust your uniform if needed. And the belts, he explains, signify effort and experience, not a rigid hierarchy or social status.
Then the standing bow, osu.
Fundamental expression of respect. Nakamura breaks down osu, says it's a contraction of osu shinobu.
Shinobu means patience.
Patience or perseverance, yes. He explains that the way the do in karate requires this constant patience and dedicated practice to unify mind, body, spirit. He adds that bowing itself is about curbing the ego, studying oneself.
Echoing Dogen.
Exactly. Echoing Dogen's teachings on forgetting the self to pursue enlightenment.
Let's turn to the uniform, the gi, and equipment. He describes the plain white uniform embodying wabi.
Yes, wabi, that Zen aesthetic of simplicity, beauty in the understated. He notes the specific patches allowed in Seido and the general absence of jewelry during training.
And everyone wears the same basic uniform?
Regardless of rank, yeah. drawing a parallel to monks practicing in simple cotton clothing. He also introduces another key Zen concept, sabi,
Sabi.
finding beauty in age and imperfection. He suggests the worn gi and the unwashed belt of a dedicated student exemplify sabi.
Could tell a story.
Exactly, a story of effort, dedication. He relates it beautifully to the tea ceremony, appreciating unique, imperfect teacups with their own history.
Moving on to daily schedule and diet. Persistence and balance seem key.
Very much so. He suggests a regular, maintainable training schedule, maybe 3 times a week, with adequate rest. He also encourages variety.
Supplementing karate.
Yeah, with other activities like jump rope, dance, racket sports, whatever works for you.
And daily zazen again.
Strongly advocates for it, even short periods. Dawn and twilight are suggested as good times. And diet. Nutritious, well-balanced,
Focusing on whole foods.
adequate calories, but mindful of the source. Moderating protein and fat, emphasizing whole grains, fruits, vegetables, variety, drinking plenty of water is stressed, and maybe considering supplements during intense training.
Okay. Before specific techniques, let's cover warming up, stretching, calisthenics. 2 parts to the warm-up.
Yes, an aerobic phase to gradually elevate heart rate, and a stretching phase to improve range of motion, prepare the muscles.
He outlines some general principles for exercise.
Several key ones. Always warm up before stretching. Be aware of the muscles you're stretching. Breathe slowly, controlled, don't bounce. Maintain good form. Avoid extreme ranges of motion. And balance stretching with strengthening.
He gives examples, too.
Lots of examples. Jumping jacks, knee rotations, various leg stretches like hurdler stretch, straight leg stretch, sitting stretches, hip exercises, gentle neck exercises, gasso stretch, fingertips, wrist rotations, different push-ups, sit-ups, always emphasizing correct form.
Got it. Body prepared. Now, the natural weapons of the body.
Right. He lists the primary areas used in karate: seiken, forefist; urekken, back fist; shuto, knife hand; hiji, elbow; sokuto, knife foot;
Right.
kakato, heel; hiza, knee. Quite a few.
And conditioning is crucial.
Makes a really important point here. Using these effectively and safely requires gradual conditioning and strengthening. He advises building a base strength first, then maybe moving to things like heavy bags, always under qualified guidance.
Then he covers hand and arm techniques, fast and powerful.
Highlights their potential for speed and power, especially snapping and thrusting techniques. Reminds us to develop the weaker arm for balance and keep shoulders and neck relaxed.
They require closer distance.
Generally, yes, compared to some kicks. And their power comes mainly from hip rotation, transferred through the body. He shares that traditional saying.
Nigiri sennen, tachi sennen, tuki sennen.
Exactly. 3 years for the fist, 3 years for the stance, 3 years for the punch. Really underscores the dedication needed to master even the fundamentals.
Now we arrive at a truly central element, kata, the formal exercises. 2 main reasons for practicing them.
According to Nakamura, yes. First, they're incredibly effective pedagogical tools, great ways to teach fundamental techniques systematically.
And
Second, they provide excellent physical exercise, building strength, muscular endurance, plus a significant aerobic workout when done with focus and intensity. The early masters developed them as this unified method for skills, conditioning, cardio, all at once.
he stresses kata is an individual pursuit.
Very much so. Adaptable to different ages, skills, conditions, can be practiced anywhere. And echoing that Zen point, true understanding comes from doing it, from personal practice and repetition.
Not just reading books.
Books provide a map, he says, but you have to walk the path yourself. Direct experience is key.
He contrasts how advanced students and beginners perform kata.
Beautifully. Advanced kata looks like storytelling, drama almost. Crisp techniques, total absorption. A beginner's kata might initially look more like learning dance steps.
And the names of kata offer clues.
Often, yes, like taikyoku means wide view. He also suggests kata, beyond form, implies how one behaves. So practicing kata refines behavior, attitude, fosters that beginner's mind, shoshin.
Openness to learning.
Exactly. He really highlights being completely present in the moment during kata. Absolute dedication, concentration. He says, kata often mirrors your overall practice, your mental state, a barometer of progress.
And there are 3 stages of learning kata.
Yes. First is renshu, just memorizing movements in their order. Many stop here, mistakenly thinking they've mastered it.
Stage 2.
Ren Ma. This is the real work.
Yeah.
Mastery through diligent practice, refining movements, stances, breathing, understanding the purpose of each movement.
And the highest stage.
Shuchu-ryoku. Kata becomes ingrained in the subconscious, that state of mushin, no mind. Body moves spontaneously, powerfully, driven by Ki's internal energy.
He addresses the debate about kata's relevance to kumite, sparring.
He does. Says while kata definitely enhances technique, coordination, balance, it's not a direct substitute for fighting. It's a valuable complement, an adjunct, and has its own deeper significance.
He shares that anecdote about Sadaharu. Oh, the baseball player.
Yeah, the legendary Japanese player who used kata and ai, sword drawing, to improve his batting and overall life discipline. Really interesting application.
So karate training, including kata, helps focus energy on personal goals.
Nakamura emphasizes that. Helps focus energy and talents on achieving goals inside and outside the dojo. He then lists several kata and their meanings.
Taikyoku, wide view. Bokata Chion, sound knowledge.
Goryugujushio, 54 steps. Interconnectedness of past, present, future. Stressing understanding the underlying principles of each kata.
He also describes Taikyoku kata, #1, and Seido kata, #1 in detail.
Yes, quite detailed descriptions. Taikyoku R-Tag 1 is foundational, common to many styles. Senkutsu Dachi Gedamarai, Chudano Izuki, 180-degree turn. Seido kata, #1, Geki Saidai, is more complex. Senchin Dachi, Jodonyuke, various strikes, kicks, ibuki breathing. He outlines movement counts and techniques for both.
This leads naturally to the practice of weapons.
Right. He lists the traditional ones: bow, 6-foot staff; jo, 4-foot staff; and sai, short-pronged swords. Mentions possible origins, maybe farming tools, maybe even a hairpin.
Why practice weapons?
Helps understand armed opponents, extends reach and self-defense. But beyond that, it's valuable for strengthening the mind and fundamental karate techniques.
They're introduced later in Seido.
Only after achieving Shodan, first-degree black belt. And importantly, they're seen as extensions of your arms, applying the same core principles as unarmed techniques.
He outlines specific weapon kata, too.
Yes, bo kata, chion, thrusts, blocks, strikes in various stances, and sai kata genkidai, blocks, punches, strikes, thrusts in various stances, again with detailed counts and technique descriptions.
Okay, now we come to kumite, the fighting or sparring aspect.
Yes. Nakamura emphasizes kumite reflects not just physical ability and technique, but also spirit and attitude, and offers valuable lessons for life challenges.
Like facing problems head on.
Exactly. He highlights the importance of facing an opponent or a problem directly, and being able to adapt your strategy if something isn't working.
Reframing injuries as challenges, not just excuses.
Right. He introduces a key concept, simi itai. 3 inseparable elements for both zazen and kumite.
Okay, what are they?
First is choshin, the physical body. Posture in zazen, flexible stance and mai, distance, in kumite.
Second.
So ku, the breath. Controlled, coordinated breathing.
And third.
Choshin again, but this time meaning the mind. Controlling the wandering mind in zazen, overcoming fear and tension in kumite. Mind, body, breath, inseparable.
He explains kumite hon's practical skills.
Self-defense skills, timing, reflexes, endurance. Builds confidence. Cultivates that non-quitting spirit, that Bushido ethos. Improves mental focus under pressure.
Seido introduces kumite gradually.
Yes, a progressive approach. Full free fighting typically starts at green belt level.
What are the stages?
Begins with Kihon kumite, basic prearranged movements. Then Yakusoku kumite, prearranged, alternating offense-defense, emphasizing control, timing, mai. Finally, Tanshiki kumite, modified free fighting, limited techniques to focus on specific skills.
And winning in kumite isn't just about beating the opponent.
No, he stresses it should be viewed as personal growth, giving your absolute best effort. It's also a powerful chance to confront your own ego, anger, fears in a structured way.
He also discusses mai distance.
Crucial element, constantly monitoring and adjusting it based on your style, your opponent's style.
And taisabaki body shifting.
Yes, emphasizing loose shoulders, flexible waist, strong abs for effective blocking and evasion. Mentions defensive positions involving sliding at 45-degree angles.
Finally, Nakamura includes this really valuable section, karate meditation lectures, focusing on ethics and values in daily life.
It's a fantastic section full of wisdom. He covers a wide range. Oya no an, debt to parents. Kenjo nobutoku, humility with strength. Oshi shinobu osu, patience understanding osu.
Omiyari, caring for others. Kogaku shin, open mind to learn.
Hito komihito ase, appreciating effort. Fugen jiko, actions speak louder. Nanakarobi ya oki, perseverance, getting up after falling.
Seika tanden, strong center. Tudai moto kurashi, looking inward.
Mikyoshi sui, calm, reflective mind. Ichinichi isho, living each day fully. Setsudomotsu, strength with flexibility like bamboo.
And gasho, gratitude for the moment.
Each one offers really profound insights that go way beyond just physical karate practice. They're life lessons.
And just to give us a bit more context on the author himself.
Right, Nakamura shares some background. Born 1942, degrees in architecture and psychology, interestingly.
Introduced to martial arts by his brothers.
Yes. Achieved success coaching the Toho Medical University karate team, famously defeated a Thai boxing champion in 1962. Earned his 7th Dan under Masoyama.
Demonstrated karate internationally.
Extensively. Before founding the world's Seido Karate organization in 1976, headquartered in New York, now with that global reach we mentioned.
So as we bring this deep dive into karate technique and spirit to a close, it becomes really clear this isn't just about fighting.
Not at all. Tadashi Nakamura presents karate as so much more. A comprehensive philosophy, deeply intertwined with Zen principles, offering a wealth of insights and practices incredibly relevant for navigating life today.
Absolutely. We've uncovered some really maybe surprising connections, from origins in a monk's spiritual quest to integration with samurai culture to that strong emphasis on ethical and moral development.
Yeah, and concepts like maintaining a beginner's mind, the profound patience and osu that call for actions to speak louder than words. They really resonate, don't they?
They really do.
And these ideas of moving Zen, bringing focused awareness to everything we do, and cultivating a strong center, both physically and metaphorically, they offer valuable frameworks for modern life, for clarity, resilience, intention.
So for you, our listener, here's a final thought to consider. Which of the core principles we've explored today may be respect, love, obedience, humility, perseverance, gratitude? Which one resonates most deeply with you right now?
Good question.
And how might you consciously choose to apply that principle in your own ongoing deep dive of daily living? Perhaps this exploration has sparked a curiosity. Maybe to delve further into Tadashi Nakamura's teachings or the rich history of Zen and martial arts.
Lots more to explore out there.
Definitely. Until our next deep dive together, keep exploring.